January 13th, 2026. While the world watches Washington scream for attention, the real power move is happening in total silence, 6,000 miles away. For 8 years, the line between Ottawa and Beijing was frozen. Dead. A diplomatic wasteland of tariffs and tension. But today, the ice didn't just melt, it shattered. Mark Carney has just landed in Beijing. This is not a friendly visit. It is a declaration of independence. At this very moment, Donald Trump is leaning into a microphone, calling Canada the 51st state. He thinks he's tightening the leash. He thinks his 100% tariffs have cornered the Great White North. He is wrong. In 2026, Canada no longer plays the role of energy logistics base for the United States. With the expanded Trans Mountain Pipeline, TMX, about 70% or more of heavy crude departing Vancouver is now bound for Asia, and China has become the single largest strategic buyer of that crude. This marks a dramatic reallocation of export flows that historically favored the U.S. market. Meanwhile, the United States is undermining its own strategic position. The Phillips 66 refinery in Los Angeles has already closed, and Valero is preparing to shut down its Benicia facility. These closures are part of a wave of refinery capacity reductions on the U.S. West Coast that are eroding domestic heavy crude processing capability. Over the span of a single year, nearly 23% of California's refinery capacity, once dedicated in part to processing Canadian heavy crude, has disappeared as operational facilities cease or scale back. At the same time, Washington has lost access to previously inexpensive, non-sanctioned heavy crude supplies from traditional sources as market dynamics and geopolitical constraints squeeze conventional flows. The United States is now facing a strategic vulnerability. Its refining sector is constricting, and the nation is progressively losing leverage in the global energy value chain at a time when reliable, heavy crude feedstocks are still critical for high-value petrochemical production. This is more than a commercial shift, it is a geopolitical inflection point. If Washington does not respond to these structural changes, the United States risks ceding control over key energy supply chains on its own territory, even as China consolidates its position as a dominant player in the heavy crude market in the 21st century. Do you believe the United States can remain a superpower while alienating its largest energy supplier? The air in the American Midwest is thick with more than just winter frost. It is thick with the stench of a backfire. Donald Trump's America First strategy wasn't a policy, it was a grenade with the pin pulled. By slapping 100% tariffs on Canadian electric vehicles and openly threatening to annex our sovereign land, Washington didn't just insult an ally. They committed economic suicide. They thought Canada was a captive market. They thought we were the 51st state with nowhere else to run. But while the White House celebrates its toughness, the American heartland is starting to bleed out. Look at the Miller family in Iowa. Their story isn't a warning for next year. It is a disaster happening right now. Bankruptcy filings in the Midwest have hit a decade high this month. The machinery is rusting in the fields, not because the farmers are lazy, but because the profit margin has evaporated. The real killer? Input costs. Because of the logistics shift, potash, the lifeblood fertilizer from Saskatchewan, is arriving 3 weeks late and 30% more expensive. Why? Because Canada has reprioritized its rail lines to favor Asian routes. Every bag of fertilizer an American farmer can't afford is a victory for a producer in Brazil or China. This is the boomerang effect. Washington threw the punch, but the American farmer is the one taking the hit. The zero-sum gamble has failed. Trump wanted to corner Canada, but all he did was paint the American people into a corner. The silence in the Iowa fields is deafening. It is the sound of a country realizing its guaranteed northern supply has been weaponized against them. Washington thinks they are winning. The data says they are losing their future. While Washington rages in 280 characters, Ottawa is speaking in contracts. Enter Mark Carney. He is not a politician of the old guard. He is a technocratic executioner. While the American administration treats the global economy like a reality show, Carney treats it like a surgical operation. Canada has adopted the gray rock strategy. We don't shout, we don't tweet, we simply become as unreactive as a stone, while we rewire the entire continent. Right now, Carney isn't just planning a response. He is currently on a plane between London, Tokyo, and Mexico City, finalizing the paperwork that locks the United States out of the loop. He is signing deals with 10-year lock-in clauses, contracts that will outlast any political term in Washington. This is the ultimate geopolitical heist. The goal is strategic autonomy. Canada is no longer content being the backup for America. We are becoming the hub for the rest of the world. Look at the ghost train. The CPKC railway merger is no longer a corporate headline. It is an active, moving supply line. For the first time in history, a single rail network connects Canada to Mexico, bypassing every major United States port. Automotive parts and heavy crude are rolling from Alberta to Veracruz without ever needing American permission to offload. Washington is watching billions of dollars in transit fees roll right past their borders. They thought they held the choke points. They didn't realize Canada just dug an escape tunnel. Carney isn't threatening to leave the American orbit. He has already left. By the time Washington wakes up to negotiate, the resources will be legally committed to the European Union and Asia. The America First doctrine assumed the world would wait. Mark Carney just proved that the world has already moved on. This is the kill shot. For decades, the United States viewed the Canadian border as an open faucet for energy and resources. That faucet is being ripped out of the wall. As of January 2026, the North American power grid is entering a starvation cycle. While New York and New England brace for winter, they are finding their guaranteed northern supply has vanished. Hydro-Quebec and Ontario Power Generation aren't cutting off the United States out of spite. They are simply coasting a bad customer for a better one. Canada is currently redirecting its clean energy to fuel its own domestic AI tech boom. Massive AI data centers and liquid-cooled server farms in Montreal and Vancouver are now the priority. Every megawatt sold to a data center in Canada is a megawatt that doesn't light up Broadway. By mid-2026, United States utilities are scrambling as spot prices spike, realizing their energy security was built on a foundation of Canadian goodwill that no longer exists. But the pain isn't just in the wires, it's in the water. While the United States Navy talks about freedom of navigation, Canada is owning the Arctic with administration. New, mandatory environmental and insurance regulations mean no ship moves through the Northwest Passage without Canadian permits and Canadian pilots. Global shipping giants aren't fighting it. They are paying rent to Ottawa for safe passage. The final blow is the Green Wall. As of January 1st, 2026, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism has entered its definitive stage. Canada and the European Union have aligned their carbon taxes, effectively placing a dirty tariff on American manufacturing. If it's made in a United States factory powered by coal or gas, it's too expensive for the New World market. This is hysteresis. The scar is permanent. Once these trade routes are rerouted to Europe and Asia, and once the United States Midwest becomes a transit zone adding no value, there is no going back. Trump wanted a trade war. He got a divorce. And in this divorce, Canada kept the House, the power, and the future. The dust is settling, and the map of North America has been redrawn, not with tanks or soldiers, but with spreadsheets and steel hulls. Donald Trump wanted independence. He wanted a world where the United States dictated the terms of every transaction. Instead, he has achieved the one thing Washington feared most: isolation. This is the boomerang effect in its final, terminal stage. The America First doctrine has left the United States alone in its own hemisphere. While Washington remains trapped in a cycle of short-term checkers, Ottawa has finished its game of Go. Every move was calculated. Every response was silent. Every outcome was irreversible. The era of automatic alignment is over. Canada is no longer an American satellite. It is the hub of the Alliance of the Abandoned. By building the ghost train through Mexico and locking in decade-long contracts with the European Union and Asia, Canada has created a world that simply doesn't need a permission slip from the White House. The United States didn't just lose a trade partner. It lost its position in the global supply chain forever. The ports in Vancouver and Halifax aren't just expanding. They are becoming the new gateways to the Pacific and the Atlantic, and they don't lead to Detroit or Chicago. Trump wanted a submissive neighbor. Instead, he created an independent superpower right on his doorstep. The power has shifted. The ink is dry. The future has been rewired. The next time you're at the grocery store, check the label on your wine or your produce. If it isn't American, you're looking at the New World Order in real time. Choosing local isn't just a preference anymore, it's an economic punch.